The tax filing season is officially underway for millions of South Africans. It's time to check SARS e-filing profiles, review auto assessments and, where necessary, submit tax returns. While SARS has continued to digitise the process, many taxpayers still have questions about who needs to file, how auto assessments work and how to avoid costly mistakes. Joining us to expand the conversation and guide us through this year's filing season is Andre Bothma, who's head of tax at TaxTim. A very good afternoon to you, Andre. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, tax season can be quite stressful for many South Africans. First things first, what should people know before they log on to e-filing, more so with the understanding that there have been a number of changes to the process?
Yeah, I mean, every year I think SARS have been trying to improve their auto assessment system, increase the sources of third-party data from employers, so medical aid, your retirement annuities, to make sure that the auto assessments are reasonable and accurate. But obviously there are certain things that does not fall into the auto assessment process, and that obviously creates a lot of questions. Now, the auto assessment window have already ended the 13th of July, and so now people can file their returns and make corrections if they feel like their auto assessment didn't capture all the necessary financial info.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people making every tax season that end up delaying refunds or even creating problems at a later stage?
I think one of the issues are not being very prepared with your tax return submission. A lot of people usually leaves it for the last day, or they forget to file. So one of the things that I always recommend is, as soon as the tax year is finished, it finished the end of February 2026, it's a good idea to put everything together, your RP5, your medical aid, anything else that you had financial movements, to put together maybe in Google Docs or wherever you store your documents, so that you are prepared. And then if you get auto assessed, or if you don't, you have your documentation in a row, and you know what to give to either your practitioner or what to submit on e-filing or through TaxTim. And so the less mistakes you are likely to make. If you're unorganized and you leave it to the last day, obviously that's where mistakes can creep in.
A lot of people are, in this day and age, earning an extra income, whether it be through freelancing, side hustles, consulting, or some online work. How has that essentially changed the way South Africans should be thinking about filing their taxes? Because there's always a lot of excitement around tax refunds, yet in some instances, the group of side hustlers, so to speak, will do work outside of their tax bracket and end up being penalized by SARS.
Correct. I wouldn't say penalized. It does create an additional tax that you have to pay that you didn't pay as you earn on. I think that is what I call it, a tax trap. So you can have multiple sources of income, but only one of those sources you would pay as you earn on. And so it could be rental income, like you said, consulting, additional freelancing that you didn't get RP5s for. The rule of thumb is to put aside 10 to 20% of that income aside for taxes, because it usually catches people off guard, and it could make you even a provisional taxpayer.
We've also heard, Andre, that many taxpayers will receive auto assessments. How does that process work? Because one wonders if they should simply be accepting what SARS sends.
Yeah, the auto assessment, like I said when the show started, the auto assessment process have improved over the years, and I think over the years people have just accepted the auto assessment as is. But it creates a complacency, especially when the auto assessment, when there's a refund attached to it, because now SARS is paying the taxpayer and it's easy to do nothing. But filing your taxes like getting your car's license renewed every year.
Yes.
And so you do that yourself, right? And you make sure that, okay, this auto assessment makes sense. it covers everything, all my financial activity that I had the tax year that just gone by. And the thing is, the auto assessment might be incorrect because it's not infallible. It doesn't know all the things that you've got going on.
And, you know, the other aspect, of course, is how active cyber criminals are, particularly during tax season. What are some of the warning signs that, you know, an email or SMS claiming to be from SARS, perhaps it's actually a scam? What should people be looking out for?
This is every year an issue, and I think there's a very distinct way of the way SARS would send an SMS versus a cyber criminal. And SARS would, for example, X out your tax number and leave just the last 4 digits open. SARS will also never give you a random set of banking details asking for payment. And so those are all significant, those can be significant risks. With an email, if you get an email, it will usually be from noreply@sars.gov.za rather than some random email address. And you can also hover on a clickable link and view, you know, where is that link sending you. So I would watch out. Don't just click anything that you get. SARS have a very specific email that they use when they email taxpayers.
And very, very quickly, for people who may be putting off filing because it kind of feels overwhelming, what advice do you have?
So I would say, like I said, be prepared. And also, if you know it's the 23rd of October, I would say rather file earlier than late. I mean, if you do file after the 23rd of October, the likelihood of admin penalties is quite high. And this is an ideal time to file your tax return, you know, avoid the late season drama. And, you know, then you can look forward to having a December, December that's always a fun time. So, but then you know your taxes are filed.
Very well. Thank you so much for that very sound advice. Andre Bothma, head of tax at TaxTim. Rather file sooner than later to avoid all sorts of problems and that tax trap. So some insight there on how to ensure that you are filing correctly and that you understand the e-filing processes.